The federal government, in a bid to finance its subsidies to the cost of provision of health care services to vulnerable persons in Nigeria, introduced a new telecommunication tax on phone calls. This new tax regime is contained in the National Health Insurance Authority Bill 2021, signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on May 19. The law defines the vulnerable groups as children under 5, pregnant women, the aged, physically and mentally challenged persons, and the indigent as may be defined from time to time. This new tax is coming despite moves by telecom companies to increase the price of calls, SMS data by 40% as a result of unfavorable operating environment, according to Nigerian Communications Commission. Nigerians made 150.83 billion minutes of calls in 2020, translating to 9.05 trillion seconds of call. This indicates that the new tax will generate 9.05 trillion kobo, which converts to 90.49 billion naira. The big question begging for answer is, what is the impact of this move on Nigerians and by extension the entire sector? I'm being joined via Zoom by the chairman and of course of the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, ALTEN, Engineer Gbenga Adebayo. Thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yes, just a few weeks ago we spoke about the operating environment and how it's affecting your business. But now we see telcos faulting federal government's move to impose new GSM phone calls tax. Tell us more about this and what you think it means for the sector.
We are concerned as an industry about the government directive to introduce additional tax on consumers, given that when we presented the situation of the current operating environment and the challenge that we do have in terms of high cost of doing business, the response we got from the authorities is that it's not an appropriate time to look at issues of tariff review and the rest of them. But today, as we stand, we're surprised that government itself is saying that there's a need to, government says it's introducing new tariff on and new charges on the public, which is at variance with what government told us when we asked government to have a look at the cost of doing business on our side. So we also take exception to it because we think that government cannot speak with one voice on one hand and on another hand they do something else. So we think that this is something that government should look at very carefully because of the possible implication on Nigerians and the consumers at large. So we think that the timing of the tax is wrong actually, and government should have a rethink of it. More so when government itself is saying it is not the appropriate time for us to look at reviewing cost of doing business on our side.
What will be the implication of this if truly it happens? How would it affect the sector? How would it affect users of this service?
Well, people will get less value. That's what it means. People will get less value. They will get less value for what they pay for. And the implication of that, therefore, is that for every 100 naira recharge that you buy, you lose a factor of 2 naira on it. That's actually what it's saying. So basically, this is what it means. That's the implication on the public. And we think that it's something that government should think carefully about.
Let's go on now because this is really very, very worrisome. What about the operating business challenge that you as an association grapple with at the moment, diesel and all of that? Are your members coping with the business as it keeps going?
Quite difficult. The reality is that the high cost of doing business is what it is. Things are going up by the day. The fact remains that without looking at the reality, the exact cost of providing services, it will be difficult for the industry to remain sustainable. And so it's difficult. That's the right word to use. And we are only hoping that we can have the right government intervention in order to minimize the shock of this on the industry. Because you can imagine that at the beginning of the year, liter of diesel was costing about 240, 250 naira. That same commodity has gone up now to as high as 700 naira. Minus the cost of logistics and delivery. So if you look at the on-site cost of this commodity, the diesel, could be as high as over 700 naira in some cases, given that we provide services at all places across the country. And these generators are powered by diesel. So it's difficult. And government needs to look at how best to support the industry in order to continue to be sustainable. And it's also wrong for government to look at the performance of a few tier one operators and use that to determine the state of health of the industry. Because while we have the tier one operators, a few of them doing very well, we have quite a number of tier two and tier three players who are not doing very well at this time. And the impact is enormous. We're in one ecosystem. We therefore believe that government should look at what we're talking about in terms of the reality of cost of providing services, because certainly these problems will not go away unless we address them.
I've been speaking to the chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, Alton Engineer Gbenga Adebayo, on major issues surrounding the sector. Yes, you talked about support. Let's talk about the conference or the summit that you just had with the NCC very shortly. And I think the focus is on regulation and improving investment climate. Tell us more about that.
Well, we just came out of a conference by our regulator looking at the challenges of the industry, the positive impact that we played in the GDP and also in the FDI of the economy, and also to address the threats that we have to the sector. And I think it was quite an extensive and elaborate discussion. I think at the appropriate time, the regulator, NCC, will make public the findings of that leadership summit. But I must say that it addressed the state of affairs of the industry, and it speaks to the issues at hand and also on how best to move the industry forward. More so at the time when we're talking about digital economy and increasing the rate of broadband penetration, providing access to all people at all places at all times, and as well as the issues of high cost of doing business in our sector. Those were issues that we looked at. As I said, I know that our regulator will make the findings public at the appropriate time.
I would like to follow up by saying that how conducive is the telecommunications space to invest? It's a pre-election year and everyone is trying to sit on the fence. But at the moment, what would you say? How attractive has the sector remained despite the challenges?
I think the sector remains one of the best for investment in the economy. We're now talking about the fifth generation. We're talking about other value-added services. We're talking also about a lot of over-the-top services. So in actual fact, given that we're a technology sector, we are becoming more and more a major driver of the national economy. We think that our sector remains one of the best sectors for anyone to invest at this time. Just as a people and as a country, we must address the issues of threats that we face in the sector, so as not to scare away foreign investors. And I must at this time talk about the interference of public actors in the smooth operation of telecom services. We have had very many cases in recent times, state actors stealing up telecom sites due to disputes in collection of taxes and revenue. And we think this is at variance with the policy of government, because our sector being critical to national economy, being critical to security, we think that the behavior of public actors going to lock up sites because they want to collect money from operators certainly is at variance with the effort of government at the center. So this is something that we need to watch. We are an international industry. The world is watching the behavior of our public actors. They are watching the stability of our industry. And so it's something that we must be mindful of. And also, when we have this issue of quality of services, part of the things that often lead to poor quality of service is the implication of site closure by some agents of government in state at different times. So it's something that's of concern, and we think it has to be addressed by our stakeholders.
Great stuff. We also see an increase in number of subscribers following the NIN SIM card issues. Now, what is responsible for this? About 6.18 million subscribers in just 4 months. Telcos are recording new subscribers. Tell us about that.
I'm not sure, actually. I think on one side, where we have new uptake, we have a number of legacy subscribers who are disconnected because they have not been able to link their NIN with their SIM card. So it's actually on the balance. I won't be right to say that we have had significant uptake in new subscribers. Yes, we have had, but not as significant as the number of legacy subscribers who are now disconnected because they can't make outbound calls. And the appeal I would like to make to subscribers is that please go and capture your NIN. When it is so captured, submit to your operator so that you can have your services uninterrupted. Because certainly the issue of NIN and SIM linkage has had some impact on the user experience and on subscribers as well.
Let's look at the digital economy, and I see that there's a relationship with the telecommunication sector, one way or the other. You can't rule that out. How better can we make all of these transactions more secured and, of course, seamless?
Well, security and safety on our network is guaranteed. We guarantee data protection. We are immune against all kinds of firewalls for those who may want to interfere on the integrity of the networks. What we think should happen is that government has to be very strong and decisive about the digital economy policy. You can't have a situation where you still have government agencies who are still working with the manual tools and not exploring the use of digital tools. You can't have public records still kept in manual or mechanical archives without using the benefit of the digital tools. You also can't have people not taking benefit of the current financial solutions that are available on the digital platform. We must encourage more people to take up that so that we can continue to migrate towards full digital economy, because really and truly, virtual is the way to go. Digital is the way to go. It's only a matter of time. The entire world is going digital, and as a country, we cannot be behind. So far, so good. I think the policies are clear. We just need to ensure that these policies of government that are very, very positive are well implemented, and they are applied particularly by the public actors.
I totally agree with you. Aside Skype before now, but now we can join you. We're having you join us via Zoom. Technology in action there. What is your outlook with all of these challenges, Mr. Adebayo? We've had reviews, reprojections, considering the reality on ground. What are you thinking of the telecommunication space, contribution to GDP, and of course, growth of the economy?
I think things will continue to be positive. I think that we foresee significant positive outlook, just that we must get regulation and policy right. Once we arrive with our regulation and policy, I think the outlook remains very, very bright. Today, the world is talking about fifth generation. We are already almost there as a country. By August, we expect that the new spectrum allotees of the 5G will commence operations. 5G is a new dawn. It will bring a lot of dynamic and smart applications. And we'll continue to improve on the fourth generation and also the earlier generation before that. So I think that the outlook for us as an industry is very good. We just must get policies right. We must get regulation right. And we must be mindful about the behavior of our public actors, whose actions often impact on smooth operation of telecom services. And also, there is a need for us to continue to talk about the protection of our infrastructure as critical national security and economy infrastructure, because it is only with this infrastructure that we can provide seamless services to people across the country. It's only with protection of this infrastructure that we can layer on it new features and new services. And so we all must take ownership of the communications infrastructure that supports all of us. And I think that's very, very important in looking at positive outlook of the future.
Indeed, very important. It's a good way to leave it there. I've been speaking to the chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, Alton, Engineer Gbenga Adebayo. Do enjoy your weekend, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I wish the same. Thank you.